Let me put it to you directly. What do you say to the charge that if you are a climate change campaigner, but you also travel around the world on a private jet, you're a hypocrite?
Well, I by the gold standard of funding Climeworks to do direct air capture that far exceeds my family's carbon footprint. And I spend billions of dollars on climate innovation. So, should I stay at home and not come to Kenya and learn about farming and malaria? I'm comfortable with the idea that not only am I not part of the problem by paying for the offsets, but also through the billions that my Breakthrough Energy group is spending, that I'm part of the solution.
That was, of course, Microsoft billionaire Bill Gates responding to criticisms of late that using private jets causes more harm to the environment than most everyday usage from average people across the globe. Now, he sets up a kind of a false choice there. Am I not supposed to come to Kenya and learn about the environment and help people? As though there isn't an option to come to Kenya on a much more energy efficient public
private jet is the only way to get to Kenya.
It's ridiculous, right? And moreover, this idea.
What, do you want Bill Gates to fly coach?
That's the thing.
With the rest of us peasants?
He doesn't even have to fly coach. You can fly first class in a commercial plane, but apparently that is beyond his conception.
He can sit next to me. I won't say anything to him. I never talk to my neighbors on the plane. Put in my headphones. I play my Nintendo Switch.
I thought you were going to say you're going to put on your mask, and I was going to be shocked.
Oh. Are you kidding? Never.
Well, and also the bigger issue here is this mentality that I think a lot of folks who are more working class and who are members of the global south are concerned about when we're talking about who is going to have to pay the cost for a move away from fossil fuels. Is it going to be that all of the poor people and people in the global south are told they can't use their little, we call them in Kenya, I used to live in Kenya myself, I grew up there, Jiko stoves, little gas-burning stoves that are very common to cook your food in your house or on the side of the road to grill corn and things like that.
Don't let the Democrats know about those. Gonna come get us.
LOL. Are we gonna? But exactly. Yeah. Are we going to focus on that? Are we going to focus on getting people off gas ovens and things like that instead of the big ticket items where most of the pollution that's put into the air and into the world happens via 10 corporations. It's a very small number of polluters that are causing most of the problem, and people like billionaires like Bill Gates who are directly profiting from that.
Yeah. It's very. This is very indicative, I think, because on the one hand, yes, overall is his private jetting. He says he does other things to support climate change. I can understand the attitude that on net he's doing more to fight climate change, and the fact that he flies a private jet doesn't count against that or doesn't overtake that. But what it shows is that even people as supposedly climate conscious as Bill Gates, there are just comforts that they don't want to give up, that they really would resent having to give up. Mm-hmm. And that's true of ordinary people as well.
Yeah.
And so when your whole policy is, well, people need to sacrifice for the good of the planet, and you're not willing to give up your private jet, you can understand why maybe the people of Kenya are going to, they like the stove they have, or the people of America, or of anywhere else. The little folk, the rest of us, why even if it's for the good of the planet, we're going to resist your little policy because there are just some comforts that people don't want to live without, including Bill Gates.
I think that some of and you can dispute the studies, and I'm not actually sure what's even true at this point, but some of the gas stove stuff is about the air quality health inside your house. It's not actually about the environment at all. To the extent that people want to be healthier and that the government's willing to subsidize those kind of changes, great. Again, making the cost not fall on normal people, but actually making it easier for people to make healthier choices, I think is a good thing. And for all of that, people like to rag on Greta Thunberg. She puts her money where her mouth is in this kind of stuff, and sailboats across the Atlantic to come to environmental conferences because she doesn't want to be a hypocrite the way that Bill Gates is being a hypocrite right now. Moreover, this idea
Does she really? She takes a sailboat?
Yeah, she very famously is windswept pigtails across the Atlantic, taking forever to get everywhere because she doesn't use airplanes like that. So, moreover, this idea that carbon capture, that he's paying for carbon capture technology that's going to offset emissions is such a misnomer. If he really cares about the environment, you should be paying for that carbon capture to offset all of the pre-existing emissions, not using an excuse to even do more emissions, right? You're trying to not just be personally carbon neutral, you're trying to actually bring down the carbon emissions of the entire planet because we're all in this together, not just basically have a cover story for why you can take your private jet to Nairobi.
And it's also easy for elites to recommend getting rid of things that they're not using anyway, because they're using the private jet type thing.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about taking the private jets away, so they can take away your comforts, but nobody's threatening theirs. Makes me think of one of my colleagues at Reason Magazine, Christian Brischke. He did great reporting a couple years ago on efforts to ban plastic straws, on the assertion that the plastic in the ocean is a major problem, and it's because of plastic straws. But he found out that the plastic straws specifically in the ocean, there was like one turtle that got a straw stuck in its nose once. It's like 0.00001% of the plastic in the ocean. The plastic in the ocean is commercial fishing equipment that was left behind. So if you're going to have a policy to address this, you need to address, hold companies accountable for leaving fishing equipment, something like that. It's like taking away the convenience of straws from people was not actually addressing that problem.
That's not an accident. Since the beginning of the environmental movement, corporations have funded environmental policies that shift blame onto individual consumer behavior so that they don't have to take responsibility for them having the bulk of emissions and pollution.
I totally agree with that. Well, Monday's rising co-host and deputy opinion editor at Newsweek, Batya Ungar-Sargon, was on Fox News the other night with Greg Gutfeld talking about the whole private jet debate. Let's watch a little bit of that.
Is it selfish to want to be asleep during surgery? How dare you hate the earth?
The green movement is just the latest way that leftist elites use to launder their own privilege as some sort of like moral high ground and then demand that the working class pay for it. Have you ever noticed that they won't touch their private jets? Their motto is private jets for us, for you, the bus. Or now, surgery with no anesthesia.
Oh, God, I know.
I guess that was the hook for that, was surgery without anesthesia to save the planet.
I'm not sure what anesthesia has to do with that. I'm sure
probably someone was recommending taking it away.
But look, I mean, the thing I would just add to this, I mean, they're completely right about the hypocrisy of it. But we all should be moving toward the bus. It's the issue is demanding something of the public that you're not willing to do yourself. That's a problem. That's an inequality feature, not a bug. But that doesn't mean that climate change isn't real. It doesn't mean that we are dealing with incredible amounts of particulate matter in our water supply at our beaches, infecting our air. Some untold millions. There's calculations that what's his name? The New York Magazine journalist David. Whose name I'm blocking his name, wrote that a compelling book about tracking all of the millions of deaths that happen in a country like China every year just from air pollution, right? Because there's so many people there. David Wallace Wells, his book. So, it is a real problem, and everyone's going to have to deal, and our society is going to have to change. The same way that we don't have like smoke plumes in the middle of cities anymore because we realize that there's air control issues. The same way that we don't send little kids down chimneys to clean them. The same way that we don't dump sewage in our streets the way we used to. There are going to have to be changes, and some of them are going to be inconvenient. Just like I'm sure the first person who couldn't empty their piss pot in the street was irritated that they had to do something else or have a toilet installed or whatever. There's going to have to be changes. But the problem is those changes, the responsibilities shouldn't fall disproportionately on the poor and working class. The burden should be evenly shared. Being
forced to take the bus feels like being forced to go back to not having a toilet or something.
Really, because people in Amsterdam who are living in these commutable cities, riding their bikes in the fresh air up and down dams, don't seem like they're in a worse off place than the folks in LA, all in their individual cars stuck in traffic for 4 hours a day.
See who you have to ride the bus with in our cities?
Well, that would change if it weren't so socioeconomically stratified. That's exactly what we're talking about now.
Well, you know my commuter transportation solution, of course.
Individually driving your car.
Scooters.
Okay, but yesterday you drove. We don't need to get into the details of your commute.
Yesterday
Scooters
I almost
are great,
got a ticket.
Yeah.
More rising after this. Stay with us.